Howdy, ho, 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 everybody. Welcome on, welcome all to Game and Ramble. We're here to reminisce about the early 2000s. Jeffrey is joining me to talk about the glory days, the days of yesteryear, the days when we were wearing our hair in mohawks and wearing uh uh
What else? Jinko
jink
jeans. No, that was like the '90s though, so maybe we've gone too far back.
was that Echo? Echo was that early 2000s?
Echo?
Echo would have
I don't
been.
know. I have no idea. I was never cool or hip, so you were probably the cool one, so you can tell me.
What that's actually an interesting way to start off this conversation. What clique were you
Jeans?
in? The jeans too. But
What
like,
click did you say?
yeah, did you like so
Jeez.
so we didn't really have that growing up. But I like that's something that is very 2000s coded in my opinion as well. Like the whole clique idea, the teen, not another teen movie style thing where you would just
Yeah.
everything was hyper exaggerated, where you had your jocks and your nerds and your goths. Like that was a very late 90s, early 2000s trope in film. But did you have
Right.
that in your school at all? Was there like cliques and groups or anything like that?
I mean, I feel like that's probably everywhere to some extent, but I wonder if we should give some background of like where we were at in that time period, because I am a little older than you. I'm 38 now. So in the early 2000s, I was in high school, moving into college, young adulthood. So I wasn't like super, super young, but definitely high school years. I was like, it's so funny. I somehow learned to navigate the line between just getting along with everyone. I don't know if that's good or bad. So I was like a theater kid, but I wasn't like the nerdy theater kid. I was also like a skateboarder, snowboarder. So I was kind of cool. I've never been cool. Don't actually believe that. So for me, I wasn't really a clique type thing. Like I wasn't a jock. I didn't do sports. Like I wasn't a nerd. I just kind of I figured out some way to skirt the line where I just kind of got along with everyone from every group, and so I never was like made fun of or bullied. Thank goodness, heart goes out to anyone having to deal with that. Sucks, but like I just kind of figured out how to get through it carefully. Which maybe
Hmm.
that just means I'm just a pushover or something. I don't know, but yeah, I was a theater kid, which maybe isn't a surprise. But yeah, so it just I wasn't really in any sort of clique, I guess. But what about you? Did you fall into any category of high school or junior? How old are you now, and what were you? What like schooling were you in at that time? I guess in the
So
early 2000s.
I'm 30 now, so I guess that's a big thing because I would have been in middle school, I kind of elementary into middle school in the early 2000s. So I guess that's probably a big reason why I don't think of cliques at that time period because I went to a slightly smaller middle school, and they're just everybody kind of got along with everybody. There weren't real like bullies. There weren't real cliques per se. But then when I went to high school, a much bigger high school, there definitely was more of a. It still wasn't really cliques. It was kind of a
Hmm.
weird thing where it was. It was kind of a darker sort of transition. Like into high school, it was like, okay, you have your drug users, you have your drug dealers, you have your
Oh
like,
jeez.
your, and then, but then it would kind of get into more tropey jock here, band person here, their group, their lunch table. But it was a lot of yeah, it was a lot like more I don't know, kind of sinister. Like it was just a little bit
Oh jeez.
there was a lot of damn drug usage going on
Okay.
in my high school years. And so like a lot of people kind of had their personalities defined by that, unfortunately. Like
Yeah.
because the rave scene was real big at the time, and fake IDs were flowing through that damn school, and so people were constantly doing the rave scene, and there was like all of that going on. And so that was like a big part of just sort of that kind of defining that. But that was still more 2010-ish era
Okay.
than the early 2000s. The early 2000s, I was just chilling in fucking middle school playing basketball, and I guess I kind of hung out with the so that once again a weird tangent before we even get going here. So I hung out with like all the athletes throughout middle school because I was decent at basketball. And then I went to high school and I tried out the first, or actually, I walked in the door to try out the first day, and I saw a dude who was like 5'10" do a windmill dunk, and I was like 6'2", 6'3" as a ninth
Yeah.
grader, and I could barely grab the rim, and I was like, okay, yeah, I have absolutely no business playing basketball. And
That's awesome.
and so like there's how it's categorized is they're categorized by A's. So like, in video games, triple A is the biggest video game and double A is smaller and A is kind of a bigger indie. And so this is in the high school that we went to, it was the same way where 6A was like the best of the best athletes in the nation or in the state.
Right.
And I guess then anywho, um so we were a 6A school in high
Oh,
school.
wow.
We were the best of
Wow.
the best of the best. And
Fancy, fancy pants over here.
but I came from a really small school where I was playing absolutely horrible players and I was killing them. So when I go into high school, I go into high school, I can't compete with any of these dudes on any front.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, hold on.
No, yeah, I guess that's that time period too, where it's like, yeah, that transition from schools like middle school to high school, for sure, you're going to probably see a bigger gap where I wasn't into sports, but from what I could see, I also saw those transitions. So to your point, that makes sense.
Yeah, so like I kind of was a dude without a home going into high school. Like I really had no idea where to fit in. Um, so I didn't end up playing basketball because I knew like I literally would not. I don't. I mean, I might have been. I definitely would have never started. Like no chance I would
Yeah.
have ever started. And I was, once again, I'm not bragging. I'm talking about middle school playing against horrible kids. But I went from being the best player on my middle school team to like no chance I'm going to be able to start. Even when I hit senior, even when I'm,
Jeez.
like they were just that good.
Yeah.
And so it was like this weird thing where I kind of felt like I had my identity stripped from me. And I was like looking around trying to figure out where to, and so I like started lifting weights and getting into that a little bit more. And you meet people there, hang out with people there, but it's not really like, and even then I was hanging out with people who were older and like people who were out of school. So it wasn't like I really found a good click in high school. I still hung out with the people who were athletes that I was friends with from middle school, but like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't really, I never really resonated with when the movies showed off the clicks. Like I never saw it depicted that way in like real life.
I mean, I don't think it ever really was, right? I mean, that maybe some areas of the world, some schools for sure. Obviously, in films or whatever, TV shows, of course, it's going to be hyper exaggerated to accentuate whatever that they're trying to say is. But I agree. How big was the high school you went to? Because mine was massive. I think it was like 2,500 kids. It was quite large. So just kind of a sea of people. Was yours pretty big like that, or was it still a little bit smaller?
Yeah, it was somewhere in that same range.
Yeah.
Definitely in the thousands for sure.
Yeah.
Because like there were three cities that all went to that school because they didn't have their own high school. So everybody kind of
Okay.
merged into this one school. And it was what was your kind of high school experience like? And I know we're kind of whatever, but it's when
It's
I
all
went,
part of the 2000s. It's fine.
yeah, somewhere in the 2000s. I I went into high school and I was kind of expecting like just a bigger version of middle school where teachers still care and can kind of do their job. And like when high school was totally different for me, like there was no structure whatsoever. Like you could barely, I don't really remember ever sitting down and learning anything. It was chaotic as hell. I mean, there were literally classes where you knew the teacher and you could just skip the class because the teacher never like checked roll call or whatever, like never cared about any of that shit. And
That's
like there
funny.
was there was literally nothing going on to the point where you would come back and like nothing was learned in the time that you skipped. So,
Right.
what was your high school experience like?
That's pretty funny. That sounds yours sounds a little bit more, I guess, laissez-faire than what we had. Although at the same time, I'll confess here, I did skip class quite a few times. Because I was not a good student. All I cared about was like dating girls and skateboarding and snowboarding. That's what I cared about. So school was like secondary, which is sad. Like I first went to a Catholic high school for a year, but all my buddies were going to like this public school. So I did everything I could to annoy my parents to death to eventually go to the public school, which probably should have stayed at the other. I probably would have, been almost 40 now and actually successful in life, but here we are. So for me, school was like, I think it was a pretty good school that I went to for a public school, but I personally just wasn't, I never found a place, kind of like you were saying, you didn't find a home when you were like all about sports and then went to high school and couldn't find that. For me, I just had no place in high school except for like hang out with skaters and snowboarders until my senior year. And eventually I found theater and I fell in love with acting because I was just kind of a weird kid. And so, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, but like so for me, like I would skip class pretty often because all I want to do is like go down the street to Starbucks, get a frappuccino, and then I'd jump over to GameStop. And my favorite thing would be to jump over to GameStop with one of my buddies and look at all the PS2 games and like picking up some used PS2 games with our little bit of spending money we had from jobs or money, I don't know, whatever it was from. So I honestly couldn't give you a good barometer of how the school was because I just was so disengaged until my last year with the actual studies. I got good grades and stuff. I just took the easy route, if that may,
Yeah.
Were you just like not checked into it, or just the school didn't seem to like be interested in it,
I mean,
or
I could
both?
be both for sure. I could be wrong, but it felt like almost nobody at my school, at my high school, was checked in like at all. It was it was a really really weird time period. Like because I know people who went to other schools like nearby and will, talk about the experience they're having versus the experience you're having, and it just seemed totally different. It was a really really weird place, but
Yeah.
and it might just be going from some because the middle school and elementary school I went to were really really small. So I guess maybe the high school experience was just so big that it was impossible to contain in that same way. But yeah, it was kind of like everybody
Yeah.
can go and do as they please, and there was very little punishment for anything, which I guess worked out.
Well, I guess so. Yeah.
But it's interesting you talk about like going to GameStop, and because that's another thing that you think about a lot of this time period where specifically early 2000s there was so much at least once again media depicted it to be such a clear dividing line between the cool kids and the nerds are like going to watch
Mhm.
movies and going and playing games and reading books, this that and the other, and in band or whatever. But like it was
Right.
really, I guess I kind of saw a little bit of that throughout middle school, where it was like the cool kids, I guess, didn't do so much of that. But I don't really
Hmm.
know, man. Like in high school, because the MCU really kicked off in a big way when I was in high school. And
Okay.
so, like, when I graduated in 2014, like, Guardians was releasing that year. And I think the Buck Winter Soldier released that year, and so like there were big Marvel movies that like you were going on dates to see that, and the chick wanted to see it, and you
Right.
wanted to see it, and like there was no real like the cool chick wanted to watch Marvel just as much as you wanted to watch Marvel, and The Last of Us came out around that time, like so there were
Yeah.
the kind of these things in media at the time that sort of bridged that divide, I guess. What was it like? Because you were a little bit older. Did you
Yeah.
have some of that, more of that division between like the cool kids and if you play games, you're a nerd type thing?
Well, this is what I thought would be fun about this conversation is because we are, eight-ish years apart, right? So I figured that'd be fun because when you think about the 2000s, that's a 10-year gap, right? From 2000 to 2010, like, and even just video game wise, a lot changed, which I'm sure we'll get into some of our like memories of what shifted and what we did or what we played. But again, I don't have any specific memories of that because again, I kind of had friends in every group, whatever you want to call it, right? So I'd hang out with some of the people that played football. I'd hang out with, and I'd play some like games with them, some like old school retro games, not retro at the time, but retro now. Or I'd hang out with my good buddies and stay up late and play a bunch of games that were in like my theater stuff. So the point is, I don't think I ever personally saw a divide. It was just kind of everyone, at least in high school and stuff, kind of played games. There's a lot of like the Call of Duty stuff, and there was those people. Then there was the people that played like your platformers and stuff. So I don't remember a clear divide. I think everyone just kind of enjoyed it. It wasn't like you're a nerd if you play video games. So maybe I think maybe that would have been more in the 90s, probably, I would guess.
Yeah.
Right? What would you think about that? Because again, we have such an age difference that an 8 year period doesn't sound like a lot, but when it comes to like growing up, that is a huge gap.
Dude, you know what I think? I think the PlayStation 2 kind of became so ubiquitous and was like in every single household that I don't I think if we had someone on this show right now who was 50 or close to 50, I think they might have a drastically different memory of how this went. And maybe some of those media depictions were a little bit more accurate to their time period of the nerds and the cool kids or whatever. Because, like, I think when the PS2 hit, households in 2000 or whatever, like,
Hmm.
that became almost in every single, at least in America, every single American household across the country. And like,
Oh yeah.
so even like you said, if you were just playing Call of Duty, you were just playing NBA Live, Madden, everyone was playing video games. And that's like I lived right next to my high school, and we would just have big Madden tournaments, NBA 2K tournaments, and bet money and stuff like that. And like, and there would be all the football players were there playing video game. When the football, I once again, I could be wrong, but it seemed to me like the nerdiest people in our high school were like the athletes because
Yeah.
whenever they had their downtime, they were doing nothing but playing the video game.
Hmm.
And sure,
Interesting.
it might just be Call of Duty, NBA 2K, Madden, whatever, but it's still playing a video game, you know?
Yeah. What do you have like a clear, again, it could be from any time from 2000, 2010, whatever in those early years. What do you have any memory that like sticks out to you in terms of a certain game or a certain console or a certain whatever? It doesn't have to be anything certain, but like, do you have a memory that you're like, man, I look back so fondly on this one or two things that have, you know what I mean? If you need time to think, that's fine. I can share as well. But I just feel like that was such, at least for me, it was such a formative time, not only for gaming, but just kind of transitioning to like what kind of media I like and things like that. So do you have any of those like strong memories of, I don't know. I just
Man.
asked that 5 times for some reason. So sorry.
No, dude. Out the gate, out the gate, Blockbuster immediately springs to mind. Like that's the first one where I'm like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
2000s coded to its core. Like I so we didn't buy many games when I was growing up. I shouldn't say that. My mom definitely hooked us up, but it was more so we would buy Madden, NBA Live, GTA, Tony Hawk. Like we would buy the games that were infinitely replayable, so we could get the most bang for our buck. And
Right.
then we would rent Max Payne and we would rent, Second Sight. And my mom would typically still get me like the Resident Evil games and stuff. I don't want to make it like I had an awesome childhood. But it was more, going into Blockbuster and grabbing those like true crime Streets of LA or Narc or just those games you'll see sitting there on the shelf and you're like, what the heck is that? That's actually, dude, that's a core memory of box art blind, just going in straight from the box art. You see the box art, you're like, what is that? You flip it over on the back
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, well, okay, it's top down a little bit there. Yeah, okay, we're
Hmm.
we're in this sort of environment. You see, you don't really even know what's going on because a lot of the
Yeah.
time the description on the back, because you're thinking in the 2000s it was all engaging, guns blazing. Like they don't even they're not saying, is it a third person shooter, is it like, it's just
Right.
all of this marketing speak that was so specific to that era for the spiky haired matrix
Whatever,
clothing.
whatever we wore. Yeah.
um
But and if you were lucky, some blockbusters, I think I could be wrong, but didn't some of them have the instruction manuals? I don't know. Was that a thing? Like you could even look at that, or was that not a blockbuster thing?
yeah,
I can't remember. I honestly can't remember now. Was it?
I think so, because like you could
Okay.
open up so in my Blockbuster for a while you could open up the case, the instruction manual would be in the case and the
Okay.
disc would also be in the case. And then they got to a
Really?
point, yeah, they got to a point where they were like, all right, we're putting the discs behind the counter.
Someone's
Um
gonna get sneaky with that. Yeah.
yeah, and also demo discs. They would have those at the checkout line
Yeah.
at Blockbuster, and like we were there so often, they would just give us demo discs, and
Oh,
like
nice.
you're playing ATV Off Road Fury or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, doing some backflips on a motorcycle here, or on on an ATV, a four wheeler. But what was like?
Yeah.
Were you a Blockbuster guy, a movie gallery guy? Like, what was? Did you have any of that?
Yeah. I think anyone, again, even with our age differences. I think as long as Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, Movie Gallery, any of those were around, I think any of us growing up before all that shut down, and things changed to just pretty much all digital, which really started to come mostly with Xbox 360, PS3, right? At least in terms of console. PC always had that, I guess.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, I always, same as you, like, there was always that thrill of, whether it was like in middle school or even high school, just jumping into a Blockbuster and like seeing what came out. Because you have to remember, people watching this that are maybe younger, the internet was still in its infancy. Yes, it was around, but like, to try to get good internet, it was mostly dial up. And if you did have anything better, it was either so hard to get. So you couldn't just easily figure out what games are coming out unless you were, getting your magazines every month, which was always fun, which may have had a demo disc. So there was always that thrill of going into a Blockbuster just to see what came out, or just to see what games you haven't heard of. Or maybe your buddy in school was like, dude, did you play this game? I remember there was like a UFC game, like, because I used to like wrestling and like fighting and stuff. There used to be there was like a UFC game that came out like on the original Xbox, and I didn't know anything about it. My buddy at like this Catholic school brought it in one day, and I was like, "Oh, dude, this looks awesome." I was like, "If you want to trade, I'll bring in my copy of like Blood Wake, this like boat game on Xbox, and we'll trade." So it was kind of that wild west of, you were just figuring out what games were just coming out by either going to a Blockbuster, or your friend is like, "I got this copy, let's trade." Did you ever like trade games around just to like try something new that you couldn't find anywhere else?
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, so we would go into Blockbuster, and I had like a core group of about five dudes who were always with me. Two of them were my neighbors right next door. And so we would have this group that we were always, always, always together. And we would my mom would typically give us enough for like a few games, enough money for like a few games. And that's the thing
Nice.
as well, dude. Back then, you're talking about, what was it, like $5 rentals, or it was so cheap,
Yeah.
so cheap, and you would get it for, I don't know, a week, 5 days. I don't remember the exact terms, but like, you
Yeah.
got a long stretch of a game. You could complete most of these games in that time period. Because back then, once again, not to doom and gloom about the present, but back then, it did seem like publishers, developers were not wasting your time as much. Like, there weren't as many 70, 80, 100 hour plus games, unless you were talking about JRPGs, which I
Right.
that wasn't even really a thing around me ever until adulthood. Like, I didn't even know about JRPGs. Like, it was such a, I guess, a literal term. It was such a foreign concept to me. Like, we did not I didn't know about, I knew about Final Fantasy 7,
Yeah.
but that was about it in terms of JRPGs. Like, I didn't even know about a Chrono Trigger or uh Eve. Like, I didn't know about any of that stuff until I was in my 20s, probably. Um so yeah, but to your point, or to your question, we definitely did. We would, man, I could talk about this forever. So we
And
lived,
I feel like we could do like a 10-hour recording on this. That's how like there's so much open to discussion. My mind keeps going to like 1,000 places of being like, let's talk about this now. So
yeah.
so go on whatever tangents you want. Yeah.
So we lived in a single wide trailer, and we had, so it was a 3 bedroom trailer, and my room was in the back. And then we had the living room. So my cousin had everything. He had the GameCube, the Xbox, he had everything. And he was always there babysitting us, because it was like, dude, please get him to come babysit us. Bring your consoles, bring your wrestling DVDs. Let's get down.
Yeah.
And so he would always come with the Xbox, the GameCube. And so that would mean that when we went to Blockbuster, we could also rent Xbox and GameCube games. So
Ooh, yeah.
we can grab, your Halos, your Knights of the Old Republics, whatever the case may be. And he owned most of that stuff. But so, and like, that's how I played RE4 for the first time. I didn't have a GameCube. I played it on his GameCube. Like, I didn't even finish Resident Evil 1, the remake, until the anthology on PlayStation 3, until I could actually buy it. Because I just
Oh,
played a
wow.
little bit of it on his GameCube.
How old would, real quick, how old would you, I'm just curious because RE4 was such a formative time when that came out in '05 for the GameCube. How old, because I was just graduating high school in '05, and I remember picking up RE4 in my first college dorm and bringing it to my tiny little 20-inch Sony TV. So that was a really cool time. How old were you when you played specifically RE4? Because that's a huge game of the 2000s, obviously.
Yes. So I would have been 11
Okay.
when RE4 came out. But I was such a mega Resident Evil fan by the time I was 11. Like the first game I really ever played. I mean, I played your Marios, I played your Punch Outs, I played Tecmo Bowl, I played that stuff, but the first game I really dove into was Resident Evil 2 in 1998. And like I loved that so, so much. And that was the game that made me like know that, oh, dude, I want everything and anything that's like this. And then I would dive into Siphon Filter, Metal Gear, whatever. And so Resident Evil 4 changed everything because at that time, people won't remember this unless you were there. Resident Evil was kind of getting stale. Like they were having trouble
Yeah.
figuring out how to evolve. Code Veronica, it was great, but it didn't quite hit like that. And Resident Evil Zero didn't quite hit like that. And the remake hit, but it wasn't what they needed for the franchise to evolve. And then RE4 came out. I was like, oh my God. What were your memories whenever that came out? Because you were older. You definitely have a more like, I assume at the time you were able to really appreciate the other stuff that was around it and be like, oh, this is different.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting too to note that the GameCube of all places had two phenomenal horror games in Eternal Darkness and Resident Evil 4. I think people today, especially with RE4, are like, well, it's everywhere. You can play it on literally everything, right? But the fact that that came out on GameCube, which I guess isn't a surprise, but like it was pretty revelatory for the time. So for me, I just remember picking it up again. It was like, I've just started college. I was in a dorm room with a buddy, and I just remember like picking it up, and I wasn't actually a Resident Evil guy like you were. I know you loved the Resident Evil series. For me, it was more Fatal Frame and Silent Hill, kind of the psychological supernatural. So picking up RE4, I didn't really have much of the history like you did with the series. I just loved the whole like church graveyard setting that I saw in like videos. So I was like, well, I'm all in on that. And just playing it on my little Sony not flat screen, Sony CRT TV, and just blown away by the graphics and how fluid it was to play, and skipping college classes to just play Resident Evil 4, which again, it took me forever to finish college, so that's probably not a surprise because video games. But so yeah, going into without the preconceived notions of anything Resident Evil, it immediately made me hooked on the series. Whereas you came at it from the background of knowing all of the games and then jumping into something completely new, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So were there other games? I guess you touched on some like the sports ones or wrestling. Were there games? Just a couple games that jump out to you when you think of 2000s, again, whatever year that is. Are there a couple games that immediately come to mind that are like, yeah, that is synonymous with the 2000s?
Oh
Do you
yeah.
have anything like that comes to mind? Yeah. What are a
So
few of them?
many.
I'm curious.
I mean, Def Jam, of course, is up there. Just like that's such a specific that can only happen in the 2000s. And I know that's more in the wrestling space, but like think about the arcadey racing games as well. Your Need for Speeds and Burnouts and Midnight Clubs. And that's another the Rockstar era of the 2000s was so prolific and we don't once again specifically of that time and place where now it's one game every decade. Back then it was GTA 3 in 2001, Vice City '02, San Andreas '04, Bully 2005, Midnight Club 1 through 3 in that period, The Warriors in that period, Manhunt 1 and 2 in that period. Like they
Wow.
were so prolific and now they just their games are so damn big and so expensive that they can only work on one or maybe two projects at a time. So th-
Right.
that's kind of a thing that sticks out to me about that period as well, where the Jack and Daxter, you would get multiple Jack and Daxter games, multiple Ratchet and Clank games, multiple Sly Cooper games. Like you would, it was multiples. It wasn't just like this studio puts out a game and then they put out a game for the next generation and then a game for like you were getting
Right.
3, 4 games from a studio in a 7 year span. What are some that jump out to you that like are specifically that 2000s window that really hit your brain?
I mean, the first one, and if you see me looking over, it's because that's where some of my games are that are, I don't collect a lot of I don't collect as many as you do just because I am unfortunately more of the digital. Sorry. I'm like the antithesis of what you like, but, for me, a couple that immediately jump out are Castlevania Curse of Darkness, a little known 3D Castlevania game from '05 on PS2 and Xbox. I just remember, I don't, again, like for me, I don't, and I want to hear your thoughts on this in a minute too, is for me, like certain games are solidified with what I was doing at that time. And like very specifically, because I remember going to a GameStop, picking up my copy of Castlevania, open it up, getting that new smell of the plastic in
Yeah.
the game. I don't know, like people get about books, that smell of it. And I was like this weird kid that like, I got this, well, I guess I would have been an adult at that point, but I got like this Subaru, a blue Rally Subaru WRX turbocharged car. I like begged my parents to help me get it, even though it was like I couldn't drive manual. The gas was too expensive, the insurance, because I was like 19 years old. I made this stupid decision to like help them to help me get this like really cool car so I could impress my girlfriend, be really dumb like that. But I remember picking up that copy of Castlevania, driving to my high school, and basically like waiting for my girlfriend to be done with her class or whatever was going on, but really just being more excited to go to my college dorm or whatever and go play Castlevania than to hang out with her, which I know is really sad. But like, I just so badly wanted to play Castlevania. So that game sticks out to me. Scooby Doo: Night of 100 Frights. Again, not like
Yeah.
the best game or anything, but for me, that is 2000s era cartoony, spooky Halloween vibes to me. So those two stick out. And then Kingdom Hearts 2. I wasn't a huge
Oh.
JRPG guy either, but Kingdom Hearts was a nice little blend from, I think it was 04, 05, but one of my first JRPGs that I had played at that time. So those three just kind of jump out as ones. What other ones did you have then?
Dude, that's such a you had so many different picks there that I want to touch on real quick because you talk about the Scooby-Doo, and that brings me to thinking of the licensed game era from that
Mm,
time. That sure, there were a lot of bad ones, but there were just a lot of them. Scarface, The Godfather, Sopranos, Ghost Rider, like these weird licensed tie-in games where it's like it makes no sense to be playing a Sopranos video game, but hey, here we are. Um, and so like that period of those licensed tie-in games, you would get a Spider-Man 2 and you were just blown away, mesmerized by what they were doing with the open world at
mhm.
that time. Yeah, you would have to deal with some bad games, some bad licensed games as well. The X-Men game was pretty horrible, but like there were
Yeah.
certain licensed titles at that time that just made no sense that they were as good as they were. I'm trying to think of some other ones off the top of my head.
One that, again, I just keep looking because I remember the one that maybe isn't ubiquitously loved, but the Haunted Mansion was a licensed one that honestly, I mean, again, it's not the best game, but it was a good 7 out of 10. You look at all of the offshoots of Tony Hawk. I guess those aren't licensed, but like the Sean Palmer snowboarder, Kelly Slater surfer, the wakeboarding ones. What about the Bond games? Nightfire, Agent Under Fire. Those are, talk about good licensed games,
Yes.
especially like Nightfire and stuff or whatever, right? Everything or Nothing.
Everything
Because
or
you like those.
nothing, dude.
You like that a
Oh
lot,
my
right?
God, bro. Everything or
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah,
You're rappelling down the side of the
yeah.
building and juking and jiving, and then you got the motorcycle and the dude. There was man. That's another thing. Once again, I love this era so much because if I'm gonna be completely real, Jeffrey, I do
Yeah.
feel like all right. This is like a such an existential
Uh-oh.
admit
Admittance? You're being admitted? Where are you? Why are you being admitted? What'd you do?
whatever the fuck
Admit,
admitting
admit,
admission
admission.
admission.
That's a word. Let's go with that one.
Jesus Christ. So I feel like if I would have been my age right now in that era and was able to do what I do now, I think it would be 10 times more fun. Like
Yeah.
games of that time just appeal to me personally so much more because I think back, like I love set pieces so much in games, and that era was just filled with set pieces like your Tomb Raider Legends and your all of those games where it was so refined, or not refined necessarily, it was so
Focus maybe
focused, like
on those. Yeah.
properly scoped, I guess could be a way of describing it, where I feel so often in games now. And listen, I think games are in a lot of ways better than they ever have been. But also in some ways, like I feel that moments don't really stand out in games anymore. It's more about the visuals, the spectacle, the
Yeah.
story. But like moments, it's kind of hard to have these super memorable moments in a lot of these big sprawling open world things where I I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I guess you do. Like, I think to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, there are some moments in that game where I'm like, oh God, that could only be done because of the open world and the dynamism of these sort of interactions and these characters doing their own thing and having their own path that they're walking and their own life that they're living. And I'm tracking that. And like
Mhm.
those, but moments, big set piece action blockbuster, like the 2000s was the era of the action blockbuster. Michael Bay just throw a bunch of money at special effects and have no real cohesive plot line whatsoever. I don't know. That was just, it was a fun time.
It was a fun time. And it actually, you made me realize too, of just one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this with you specifically, because we've mentioned this, I think, on other recordings in the past, but the 2000s was such a wild west in terms of publishers greenlighting things, not just the
Yes.
licensed games, but just like I wish I had like examples in front of me. But let's use an example like Dark Watch. Dark Watch, from for the PS2 is that vampire first person vampire, literally Wild West shooting game. You would rarely get that nowadays. Or you think of the Splashdown. That was like a watercraft game. I don't know, man. You grab some games. I'm running out of ideas here. But just the idea that the 2000s was such a wild west where like publishers were like, "Hey, let's just try this game. Let's try this game. Let's try this game." And you would get such an enormous ball of experiences that I think today we get from the indie scene. We without a doubt get that from the indie scene, but we don't see that from AAA and AA. So why don't you do show and tell to prove my point? Because I can't think of any games, even though I'm staring at some. But
Dude, it to prove your point, would we ever
yeah,
get a damn Jaws video game in 2025? And I'm not saying we necessarily
no,
should. And Maneater is like the best of this ever. And that's once again to the point of me saying like a lot of things about modern gaming is a lot of these ideas were made better 20 years later. I get that, but
yeah,
you're not getting Max Payne clones on the AAA level anymore. You're
no.
not getting Dead to Rights. You know what I mean?
I
You're
forgot
getting
about Dead to Rights. Yeah, what was the dog's name? I don't remember the dog. What was the dog's name in Dead to Rights? Because that was a big
oh
that was a
man.
big part of like the narrative was like taking care of the dog, right? Or like having it. What was I can't remember. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But
I forget the dog's name as well, but yeah, that was a big
we'll call him
part of it.
Spot. I'm sure it
But
was Spot. Yeah. What other ones do you got for show and tell?
a lot of you know, a lot of that stuff you can find on the indie space with like Strange Scaffold doing El Paso Elsewhere. And but it
Right.
still doesn't have that big budget sort of feel to it. And that's okay. I still love El Paso Elsewhere is one of my favorite games of 2023. But like Beyond Good and Evil.
Yeah.
Back
Right.
then, you could make Beyond Good and Evil because it only took 3 years, 2 years to make this thing. And now it's like, well, to make it compete with The Last of Us, we got to put $400 million and we got to be like, how about we just how about we just make Beyond Good and Evil 2? How about we just
Right.
we kind of keep the same sort of concept, the same sort of gameplay, slightly spice up the visuals. I don't know. I wish AAA companies would take kind of smaller bets. Bro, Blood Rain?
Yeah. Blood Rain. That's a great another example. Yeah. A lot of vampire ones. Yeah.
You would never get a damn Blood Rain on
No.
this scale now. The
No, you
Punisher,
wouldn't. Punisher. Yeah.
classics here.
But that's the point. Like that era was again. I go back to the term Wild West, like because it literally was just developed, especially because like the 3D. I mean, obviously 3D gaming was being done with the N64 and PS1, but like it was really burgeoning in those 2000s era. So for all of these developers and publishers to just be like, you know what, let's just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks is so darn cool. Wouldn't it? Do you got another kid? What's that one? Is that Godzilla? Yeah, exactly.
Godzilla,
Right.
bro.
You wouldn't get that today, right? Like you might, but thank goodness for the double A scene nowadays. Because yes, indie you get probably the most creative in general, but I would say the double A scene nowadays with games like Banishers or Atlas Fallen or Guilt or Vampire or whatever, like yeah, those would be games you would think about back in the 2000s if they were there. But I don't know. It's just what a cool time, right? Where because once we started to switch to like 360, PS3, and then into the 2010s, like all of that kind of started to die away, right? And that's not necessarily all bad, but what you stopped seeing those kind of things. So
Doing this in the HD era is pretty tough. You know, making a damn making some of these things in the HD era is a difficult challenge. And what I will say though about like I think modern gaming right now, when you factor in absolutely everything, like I think the AAA space is kind of maybe worse than it's ever been. But I think when you factor everything, like you're saying, double A, indie, the fact that one person can make Balatro and become a millionaire off of just a really good idea, like I would take what we have now over the 2000s. I think maybe.
really interesting.
Here's what I'll
Okay.
say. I think that I wouldn't take what we have now over the 2000s. I think what we have now is like better than what we had in the 2000s when you factor everything into it.
Yeah.
But for like personal taste, dude, you throw this slop at me, this big action movie slop on my plate, I'm eating it up happily all day every day. I don't really I this is going to turn into old man complaining about modern gaming, but
Get off my lawn and go, baby. That's okay. I'm older than you, so you can play your old man card. It's fine because I'll still be older than you.
do you feel this way though? Tell me if you feel this way.
Yes. Yes, I
I
feel old. I feel like I'm dying.
I every day, dude. It's
Sorry. Go ahead.
total tangent. That's one of the craziest things about hitting 30 is like I don't know how this just I can't put into words how this happened specifically at the age of 30 where everything is like painful. I go and exercise and like my knees have never hurt. My knees hurt now. What the hell? Like I'm gonna try to get down to I'm at about 235 pounds.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to get down to like 215 just so I don't have pressure on my joints. I never thought about pressure on my that phrase I never said once in my life until I hit 30. Pressure on my joints.
Oh man. Well, good luck. Welcome to getting almost 40. So yeah, have fun with that. It gets even more fun. So all right, well let's go back to what you were where were we going before we went on our old man tangent? Let's go back to that because otherwise we're gonna have a whole separate podcast about like just getting older.
Well, to be real, I this is kind of some old man ass shit that I'm
All
about
right.
to spew your way. So bear
Let's
with
let's
me.
hear it. Let's get spicy.
Do you feel
Yes.
that do you
Sorry.
feel that right now there is this focus on like how to word this? And we should be clear. Obviously, I think you can tell by the pacing and flow of this podcast that we didn't have much of a structure. We're just coming in here rambling, but as the name suggests,
Yes.
I feel like gaming right now is so like developers and publishers have found out or maybe focused on this idea of man, what is the
Just
like
just say it. Just say it in one. It doesn't matter if it's going to come out like correct. Just say
okay,
how you want to say it.
like brutalizing the player where it's like it seems like fun isn't the number one focus anymore. Where it's like even in gameplay ass games that are solely dedicated to like back in the day that would have been just fun. Like just yeah, other than like Nintendo and stuff. But in the third party AAA or even double A space, even indie space to some degree, it's like
Yeah.
the focus is almost keeping players in for as long as possible by making the game as difficult as possible. Like with the roguelike, trend. And it's like, why some of these games would be dope if they were just 3 hours and $15. Like, I
Yeah.
don't need to be in here for 30 hours doing the exact same thing over and over until I can find this specific RNG spun power up that gets me. Like, who cares, man? What give it? I wish there was like an old man mode that you could pick in these games where it's like just give it. Almost like you could opt in and say, "I'm willing to pay you the $15. Give me a 3 hour version of this shit."
Yeah. I mean, I think that was well said, especially the word brutalized, because that is almost like maybe it's extreme, but like beat us into submission with like, you're just going to play our game until it's until you're not playing anything else and chill on next one. But yeah, I think I never really thought of that point until you brought it up but it is true, not just in like free to play live service games, but even in AAA games, adding in all this extra stuff later down the line. It's like, just keep playing, keep playing, keep playing. And maybe not all of that's bad if it's handled well, like story DLCs. But I think you and I have talked enough about on the channel of things like Souls likes and roguelite, things like that, which again aren't inherently bad. There's people that love that stuff, but to your point, how much of it is solely to just make people keep playing the game? When you almost look at like the games from the 90s, there's been so many interviews,
Right.
I think, of like developers, like a lot of even like the Disney, like Konami games from like back on the SNES and the Genesis, like publishers, I guess, at least were like telling the developers, like, make this so darn hard, like the Lion King, make it so hard that kids literally can't beat it because they want to be able to keep renting it.
Yeah.
Right. So like you're almost getting a modern day version of that where it's like, just make it so hard or so much content that you almost can't do it all because then you can't buy another game or something. So yeah, I think it's a solid point, especially when compared to the 2000s, right? Like you had more games that were like played for 5 hours. A game like The Suffering, right?
Yes.
The Suffering, you could jump in there, you play for 7 hours, 6 hours, and you're done. And like you feel like you got that. And that's just one tiny example, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that is, I didn't think about that. That is an interesting and almost scary point. But do you think that's coming more from like, if there's publishers involved, like the publisher side, or do you think it is just developers being like, how do we just keep people playing? Kind of like you and I were just talking about before we were recording the whole YouTube thing, right? Like, how do you get people invested? It's like, do you make a
Right.
ton of content that's click worthy, which isn't, again, inherently bad, or do you make
Yeah.
longer stuff that's really, really passion forward, but maybe doesn't get the same? So anyway, that was a lot of questions. Do you think there's correlation between that though, to an extent?
Definitely, dude. It's the exact same thing, dude. That's the funny thing,
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey, of what you're saying is those two problems on two vastly different ends of the entertainment spectrum are suffering from the same exact core problem, in my opinion, the attention economy. How do we keep
Mm-hmm.
your attention for as long as possible? Or, in the creation space, the content creation space, it's the thing of not just keeping your attention for as long as possible, but being somewhere you can see me as often as possible because people, even I have to admit this. I forget shit so quickly nowadays. And I don't even think it's so much because of like, getting older or whatever. I think it's because we have so much information hitting our brain so frequently that like I just forget. Man, there was a really cool video. What was the name of that video? Like that didn't happen to me 5 years ago. Where if I watched a video from a creator, which once again we were talking about when we started doing this, like yes, there was a lot of competition. But if you saw something really cool, it kind of just stood out to you more back then than it does
Yeah.
now. Like you can watch something really, really cool from a new creator, and then 30 minutes later, you forgot the creator's name. You remember what the video was about, so you type in the video kind of what it was about into the search, but it doesn't pull up because there's 700 other videos from bigger creators that are similar that they feed to you first. And so it's kind of the same problem on the developer publisher end where it's like there are thousands of games hitting Steam monthly. How in the world do we stand out? How do we keep your attention? How do we make our value proposition worth enough to you to spend $20 on our game? Oh, well, hey, we got this really cool gameplay loop, but we only have one level for it. So we're just going to make it extremely challenging to get to the end of this level. Like arcade, back in the day, you put your
Yep.
quarter in, and that's how they keep getting quarters out of you. Now it's not about getting more money. Well, it is that, but it's also about just keeping you invested. And also, whenever this is a big thing, how long to beat.com, or,
Yeah.
you go online and it's like, this game's $20, but it's only 4 hours. You get that thing. And it's like, so what's a way to remedy that? Hey, it's a roguelike. Average time to beat 60 hours. You only see one thing this entire time playing it. You're only going to see these two little levels. It's going to be brutally hard, but hey, it's $20. It'll get you 60 hours of gameplay.
Yeah, those are really solid points. And I think to kind of loop it back into the 2000s thing is there is almost that correlation between we didn't see as much of that, or at least I can't remember much. You can tell me otherwise from the 2000s. These games, again, you pick up 50, 60 bucks, however much, and you beat them in 5, 6 hours, right? And that was great. We didn't think about like, oh my gosh, I'm going to not get my money's worth. But then you think about like today, we champion, at least you and I do, and plenty of other people champion games that you can wrap up in 10 hours, right? Like, for example, if there's a $70 game that comes out that's 6 hours, and I know it's well done and good, for me personally, I can't speak for everyone. That is a good value proposition because I'm going to get a really solid enjoyment, a good story, etc. I can understand if someone's like, well, there's not 100 hours of content, but like, I guess it just depends on the person you are, right? Like some people want hours over quality, I guess sometimes. But for me, or maybe for you sometimes too, as we get older, you have less time and you want to just be able to get more bang for your buck in that amount of time. I feel like I was going to go somewhere else with that, but with that 2000s era, yeah, I don't remember having that mindset like you're saying now, right?
No. Well,
So,
and it was also because like talking about the rentals and talking about that was kind of my hope with Game Pass possibly taking off, where it was like Microsoft would go into Double Fine and be like, "Hey, drop this 4 hour really experimental quirky thing, but you ain't got to worry about making profit on it. You're not going to make any profit on it. We want more people to sign up for Game Pass," and like going to their studios and trying out these different things, because there wouldn't be that idea of, oh, you got to spend $80, $70 on this. You're spending 15 a month, and it's like you don't when I play something short on Game Pass, like I don't care at all. Like I don't think about my hour count or anything versus my money, because it's like, well, if I want to go do that, I'll just go download Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Odyssey that's on there as well. But like I would much rather stack up a bunch of quirky, weird indie things, or just quirky, even honestly, man, I kind of liked the idea of more Hellblade like experiences. I didn't like the game
mhm.
Hellblade 2 all that much, but I liked the idea a lot of let Ninja Theory go make another 5 hour, but a totally different tone, a totally different thing, but keep it really short, concise, but it's in Game Pass. So it's like, who cares about just make it really good in that time frame. Sure, 5, 6 hours, you're finished with it. Like, I don't know. And then maybe they can get out 4 games a generation like we did back in the
Yeah.
day. That was kind of my hope with Game Pass. And that's back to the blockbusters and all of that. It when you're renting a game, you're putting $5 down on it.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying earlier. When we would buy NBA Live, we would buy Tony Hawk, we would buy the wrestling games that we would play hundreds of Grand Theft Auto. We would put hundreds of
Mhm.
hours into those games. But dude, cool. I'm gonna go buy or I'm gonna go rent Max Payne, and we'll finish it in 10 hours, whatever the case may be, and then
Mhm.
we'll trade that back in. We'll return that. We'll go pick up Blood Rain. We'll finish that. Maybe it's maybe some of these games aren't the greatest, and then we return them early and we go pick up a different. Like I don't know. I I know everybody's different. I kind of prefer that style of play of just check out a little bit of this, check out a little bit of that, and oh damn, cool. This one's 5 hours. I finished that. Now I'm on to the next
Mhm.
thing. Like I don't really need things to stick with me for hundreds of hours. I don't really get much out of that. By the time I hit 30, 40 hours of almost any video game, I'm kind of satisfied, man.
So I have a few questions I want to ask you specifically about the 2000s. These are things that were on my mind when I knew we were going to talk about it. So I'll do them one at a time because I don't want to bombard you with info, but these are things that I think are fascinating. So the first is, how do I ask this in a way that makes sense? Do you have a type of game that inspired you or helped you to want to do things in real life? I'll give an example. So I remember I have a very fond memory of, so I grew up in Utah. I lived very close to the mountains. So I had the luxury of like looking outside to find out if I want to go snowboarding. So one of my buddies would always come over in the morning on the weekend, and we would, before we go snowboarding, before we take the bus up the mountain to go boarding, we would play SSX Tricky. So sit down for like an hour. We would just bust out some SSX Tricky, get so pumped up to go snowboarding for the day, knowing, of course, we're not going to do any of that because, well, that's obviously impossible. But we would just basically play that to get pumped up to go snowboarding, and it would make our snowboarding experience that Saturday even more fun because we just got jazzed up playing SSX Tricky on the PS2. So, do you have like any kind of similar experience where you played a sports game or wrestling game or whatever type of game that made you excited for something else in real life? Because I feel like, again, that's kind of a core 2000s thing. Maybe it's not, but that's just what I remember. So I wanted to bring that to you. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
The snowboarding one is so much better than anything I have because like I think that Tony Hawk definitely did inspire us to try skateboarding. I was never any good at that. And we lived on like dirt roads and a lot of grass and a lot of like wilderness. And so it wasn't like necessarily conducive to a skateboarding lifestyle. So like I guess that, but I mean, yeah, NBA Live, I think back in the day was probably the main thing that pushed me into wanting to play basketball. And then I think around 2004, I guess, I was playing basketball as early as I could, really. And just, I love that sport so, so much. Like, still to this day, I love watching it. I love the X's and O's. I love it's such a high IQ sport when it's played properly. Like, when you see a team who's like really clicking, like, I think to the mid 2000s Spurs where they were just so smart. They were so smart. The Nuggets kind of play like that now. There's a few teams who I just think play such smart basketball
Mhm.
and it's so so fun to watch. But I actually think the Cavaliers, the once again tangent, but yeah, the modern Cavaliers team I think play really really smart basketball. But anywho, I I think that playing the video game NBA Live was probably the primary thing that pushed me into actually, attempting to play the sport in real life. But I don't have any like, playing Grand Theft Auto didn't make me want to steal cars and shoot people and
Well,
playing.
sorry, yeah, I didn't. That's good. Yeah, I meant more the lighthearted. Yeah, not that. That please don't do that, anybody. But
Yeah.
like playing NBA Live, did it like again? Maybe this was just specific to me and like the friends I had. But did like playing NBA Live jazz you up to go play basketball in real life, or did like playing Def Jam make you like jazz to watch wrestling or something even more? Like, was there any of that connection? I guess you kind of alluded to that
Yeah.
with it inspiring you to play basketball. But did one pump you up for the other?
Well, definitely. And I even
Yeah.
think, to something like San Andreas, I think that might have been the first time I ever looked at someone like lifting weights. Nah, probably not. But I think watching CJ go to the gym and having his little routine and like I love doing that so much in the game and like watching a body morph in real time. I was like, oh damn. So it's just you go to a gym, you eat food and you get bigger. And then like I and it kind of did instill like it has to be this sort of daily thing because if you don't do it, you end up getting smaller. And that game did teach you like you go to the gym, you get really big. You don't go to the gym for a while, you lose your muscle. You go back, you gain your muscle. And it's like some of these lessons that are, I don't know. I'm not saying it's necessarily gonna change the world, but it definitely changed the world for me, or potentially changed the world for me because like whenever I got into weightlifting, it was just understood immediately where I was like, I gotta go every day, every other day. Like it has to be something really, really consistent or it's just not gonna work. So that might have been directly from something like San Andreas. I don't know, but
Yeah.
um yeah, but basketball, no doubt. NBA Live definitely influenced me to want to play basketball. And yeah, I wish that damn series was still around.
Maybe one day. I mean, they brought back college football, right? So maybe they'll bring back that one day somewhere down the line. Who knows, right?
Yeah, I think they'll bring back college basketball. I don't think NBA Live will ever come back. 2K is
No.
just way too dominant, which hey, they
Yeah.
that's what happens. If you're not good enough, you get left behind.
All right, next question, because this also comes up a lot. I think, and again, I know our ages are different, but the huge transitionary period during the 2000s, specifically '05, was the shift from like PS2, Xbox to Xbox 360, right? And I just that generational leap, at least in my mind, in the 2000s was massive. When you look at of course, in the '90s into 3D, all of that obviously was big. But when you talk about nowadays going from like PS3 to PS4, yeah, it looks better, but it wasn't like oh my gosh. Going to PS4 to PS5 was like yeah, it looks nicer, but it's not oh my gosh. So I guess my question for you is: do you have vivid memories, or do you remember that time period of that swap from GameCube, PS2, Xbox to 360, PS3? Because that was such a pivotal swap in graphics. And the reason I ask is because at the time, while you kind of think about it, at the time I was working at a GameStop,
Oh, cool.
and the GameStop had a demo booth for Xbox 360 and Call of Duty 2, the World War II one. And I just remember working there and we were setting up the demo thing and I had just been playing PS2 and Xbox and GameCube and loving that. And the first time I booted up the demo disc or the demo thing in the GameStop I worked at and seeing the first level in Call of Duty 2 and you could aim down sights of the gun and see the texturing on the gun. And I was blown away. Like I was literally just like, how is this possible? You know, people today might be like, that's insane. Of course that's possible. But back then, I just remember being so shocked seeing aiming down sights, seeing the texturing on the back of the gun. It was phenomenal. So do you have any memories of that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, I know it's a stupid one to bring up because it's such marketing, horseshit, but the sweat in NBA 2K whenever they showed the PS2 version of 2K6 and then the 360 version side by side or Xbox, however the OG Xbox to 360, and it was like you would see Shaq's forehead full of sweat and it was like, "Oh my God, this is as high fidelity as close to realistic as you could possibly get." And but I don't think I was able to get a PS3 at launch, if I'm not mistaken. But once again, my cousin got a 360 at launch, so I played a lot of his 360. But I think that I waited a little bit for the PS3. But once again, my mom came through clutch on that one, and that fat, the backwards compatible PlayStation 3 that played the PS1, PS2, like the launch version.
Mm-hmm.
Got that expensive Joker for a Christmas one year, and I was, oh my God, I was a kid in a candy store with that thing. Like, because I've always been a fan of like going back and replaying old things. You know what I mean? Like, I love going back and playing things that I grew up with, and yeah, so that's probably like my all-time favorite console ever. That original backwards compatible PlayStation 3. I love that thing.
Dude, that's awesome. So I have two. So I want to let you go because I know we want to work on kind of wrapping this up so it's not super long. But I have two more specific questions that I think are fascinating with this time period. But I want to see. But if you have things, I know you mentioned you have a few things you want to like go over. So before I do that, I don't want to ruin any of the things that you have potentially to talk about.
Jeffrey, if I'm being completely honest with you, man,
Okay.
I came into this with very, very little preparation. I just kind of wanted to sit here and shoot the shit with you. I have one question that
Yeah.
I jotted down that I'll hit you with before we get out of before we get into your questions and wrap up.
Yeah.
What's a game from that era that you missed out on? Like, because I think back to this time period of like now you really can't miss out. You can, of course, but like back then there was literally a $500 divide between or whatever the price was. There was a multiple $100 divide between the console that you had versus the console that had a game on it that you wanted to play. So there was just a reality where like you weren't going to be able to play, sir, if you had a PS2, you weren't going to play the GameCube and original Xbox exclusives. And now it's like I guess it's somewhat if you chose Xbox, if you chose the Series X as like your primary thing, then yeah, there it's a little bit different. I guess Nintendo still is pretty much 100% a walled garden, but like
Hmm.
if you're a PlayStation owner, you're it seems like never going to miss out on anything from Xbox at this point ever again. So it's like kind of good and bad for like varying kind of degrees there. But back in this time, there was clearly like it was all in on the exclusive. So was there anything on that front where it's like I owned this console and wasn't able to play that game that you have in your mind?
Well, while I think about that, because I have a couple things, but do you have one, like, since it's your question, do you have something that comes to mind? Because I want to kind of ruminate on it for a minute because I can't think of something immediately, but I have a couple ideas.
Yeah, so for me it was more the late 90s. So I know that that's not necessarily in this bag, but it's the Nintendo 64.
Oh,
Um
okay.
I missed out on all that, man. All of that stuff. Like
Wow.
and I know Ocarina of Time is heralded as like literally one of, if not the greatest game ever made. I would love to play that, love to try that. Banjo, Star Fox 64, Paper Mario, all that stuff. Like I missed out on every single one of those titles. And, over the years, I would dive in, play a little bit of Mario Kart 64, play a little bit. Like I've dabbled with some of these things, but not really anything on that list that I just mentioned.
Do you have, because I see you have the N64 games back there. Do you have an N64 now, though, to try any of that if you wanted to?
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's those games are just so expensive, man.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
so expensive. And like I don't know. I would like to at some point. If I'm being completely real, I just don't have the space for. I have a CRT. I have a CRT, like very very small TV, but I don't know. I don't want to. I feel like at that point I'm playing on PC. I'm like hovering over it and like I want to like kick back a little bit. I need to go and grab like a big old CRT and I just don't have the space for a
Yeah.
big old CRT. So I might grab like one of those emulation devices like Steam Deck, get a really cheap Steam Deck, something like that and play through some of these. But yeah, those are my picks, man. What about you?
Well, side tangent, yeah, that because you reminded me of the massive TVs. That reminds me of how the 2000s was that era before cheap and like small light flat screens, like the giant 500-pound massive like box TVs that if you wanted a big screen, you had to like you know break through a wall to get in your house. So
Bro, that was like you could literally go to Best Buy right now by yourself and get the biggest TV in the store, bring it back home by yourself,
yeah,
install it by yourself.
yeah,
Like people don't understand, man. If you're younger watching this, you probably never even experienced having to bring a big ol' ass CRT television into your house. Like not
yeah.
even joking, depending on the size, like those ones that were the big boxes, like
Hmm.
you would bring, I mean, six people to
Yeah,
get that thing in a door. Like it was
yeah.
ridiculous, man.
Especially those big like Armoire ones. Like I literally had like this. I so badly wanted a big TV when I was in college. Like I had like a 20-inch CRT. I so badly wanted like this, like the massive one that's like 7 feet tall. It like literally weighs probably 500 pounds. So I convinced two of my buddies to drive with me for like an hour in one of their pickup truck to buy for like $400 this massive, massive one just so we could play Saints Row and Call of Duty 3 and all this stuff. Oh, and Guitar Hero. Completely forgot to talk about Guitar
Oh
Hero.
yeah.
That was a thing for the. But anyway, we literally picked it up and brought it back to like this basement I was living in, and we couldn't even fit it down into the basement because it was too big. So we had to like push a hole through the ceiling just to get it down there so we could experience our games like on a bigger screen. So talk about like a product of just that era. But so
Dude, yeah, I mean, not to continue on this ramble, but you're talking about LAN parties. Oh my God, dude, stuff of that era where you just I miss having to be together. That is something that I hate now so much. It's like,
yeah,
bro, let's just pick a day and let's all get together. I do not want to play this game with you online. Like, there's nothing about that that is even slightly appealing to me. Like, let's just pick a day. Even if it's once a month, let's just all get together. I'll come to you. Whatever is the closest, whichever house is the closest to all of us. Like, let's pick that house. Let's go there one time a month and let's hang out for 8 hours. Like, just one full
yeah.
day of just playing games. And man, that's a big problem. Oh, this is
No,
this
no,
is
go
gonna
ahead,
go.
go ahead. Again, this is the point. The point was just to be able to randomly go about our 2000 stuff, but we're good.
I was having a chat with a buddy the other day, and we were talking about like losing weight and staying in shape and stuff. And he said to me, he was like, why is it that back in the day we used to eat anything that we wanted to eat? And we were like 6 packs, 8 packs, like just shredded. And I was like, dude, we were outside playing all day long. We could literally eat 10,000 calories and we would have burned that outside and then
Yeah.
some. Like there wasn't enough food for us to possibly gain weight in that household. And so like I was telling him, I was like, dude, it's really kind of ridiculous that when you hit adulthood, the expectation of recess or whatever is like out the window. There
Yeah.
is no more like if you are going out and like shooting basketball by yourself at the local park, you it's like you kind of get looked at as a fucking creep.
Yeah.
And it's like such a bummer that that's the thing. Like I
Yeah.
bought a damn basketball goal and literally moved it to my backyard so I don't have to do. I got a big old ass fit. Like I don't want to. I don't want to have to go to a park to shoot basketball. It is such a bummer that
Yeah.
like there's this not to go into this full thing of like men have it so rough, but it is like you
Oh no.
you do as a grown adult dude, like you really do have to like there is no more like getting to have that childlike exuberance, that sort of, oh yeah, let's go outside and play. Like what why is that not it should be such a common thing where it's like everybody should still be playing. Everybody
Yeah.
should still be outside kicking soccer balls, shooting basketballs, playing, hockey like you should, everybody should be doing that. That should never be a thing for where it's like, oh yeah, that's a cutoff at when you turn 21, you should never do that again. Like that is such a weird societal thing that is making people so unhealthy.
Yeah.
That's a total tangent, but
No, no, it's
it's
okay.
crazy.
But it is. But to that point too, it's, and don't worry, I'll answer your question. I still have it in mind. But that point, you think about even on the bigger scale, because this is just a fun rant, is that you think about like people a couple hundred years ago and few hundred years ago. Obviously, the lives were probably much, much harder in different ways. But like, there weren't gyms. People didn't lift weights, and it's like, how do people stay healthy? It's because their jobs were tilling the land or
Yeah.
like working at a factory or like, and I'm not saying I wouldn't want to do that nowadays. I probably couldn't handle it. But when you think about like, why are there modern gyms? Why are there all this? Well, back in the day, people were just generally probably healthy because their jobs were either mixed with play or mixed with outdoor stuff, which maybe probably provided a healthier view on life than what we have now. Again, not that we all want to do those jobs. I get that. There's some moderation, but to your point, it's like we shouldn't have lost that. We just have as a society, because everything's just all about like being inside and being on a thing and not just out in the world, right?
Yeah, and
So
that's the funny thing as well, Jeffrey, where like you go to the gym as an adult, and it's like that's what you're supposed to do. You're
right,
supposed to go and do something absolutely miserable to stay in shape,
right.
opposed to like when you were younger, everybody had an activity that they loved doing, and then you just hit a certain age where it's like no longer societally acceptable, or it's like looked down upon to for a 30-40 year old to be shooting basketball or kicking a soccer ball. It's like that is such a and listen, I I know this because I've experienced this. Like when I go to a park by myself to shoot basketball, I'm like, this just feels fucking weird. Like,
Yeah.
and so it is an undeniable truth that I think I don't know if women feel this way. I can't speak to women, but
I don't
like
know.
I feel that 99.9% of men feel this way, where they're like, what happened to the shit we enjoyed doing when we were kids? Like we can't do that no more. That's crazy.
We'll start doing it again, man. Fight past your fears of feeling like a creep and do it anyway. You're gonna bring it back, man. You're gonna bring back the resurgence.
I went and bought a fucking big ass basketball goal, 10-foot huge basketball goal, put it in my backyard, and it, just to avoid any of like the weird social dynamics of shooting basketball at a park as a 30-year-old.
Ah, our modern world. Good times, huh? That's hilarious. I love that. This man. We just do a whole podcast on this stuff. But
I swear.
tangent off a tangent off tangent. Then I'll answer your question. Did you do paintball and airsoft in the 2000s? Because I
Bro.
loved paintball and airsoft in the 2000s. I don't ever hear about that nowadays. I'm sure it's still a thing. Like we're not young anymore, but I just remember the 2000s was full of that when you talk about activities outside. So did you ever do those things?
Dude, we had like I don't remember how many. We had loads of these guns that like we actually owned in our house. Like we didn't go to places to do it. We
Wow.
didn't have any of that nearby. That would have been really,
Really?
really, yeah.
Like
Which
you
is
can have the arenas, like the arenas where you actually go and do that? Oh, okay.
no,
Interesting.
which is really weird because we lived in the country. You would think there would be tons of places set up for that, but
Yeah.
we didn't have any of that. But
Uh-oh.
I do
Uh-oh.
have a memory of my buddy. He uh he had the airsoft gun, and he was like waving it around in the house being just a complete fucking menace, and he pointed it at one of my other friends, and he's told him to do something, and
Oh no.
the dude wouldn't do it, and he was like, dude, get that damn gun out of my face. He's like, it's not even loaded,
Oh
and
no.
squeezed the thing.
Oh
Splat-
no.
splatted that dude in the head.
Oh
I mean,
no.
and I'm talking about like from I don't know,
Oh
six,
no.
10 feet, like not far at all.
Oh
Just
no.
splatted that dude in the head.
Oh gosh.
I cried. I mean, I know I shouldn't have. I cried laughing, bro.
Oh
He was so mad. He just rushed the dude, just like grabbed him and they started wrestling. I, yeah, I have done this 100 times. I'm going to do it again. But that was another thing of that time period that I missed so much was the era of no supervision. Like where it's just
Yeah.
your kids are left up and they're doing all sorts of ridiculous shit that nowadays it's like, you know, you're never ever gonna let your kid just run around with airsoft guns and
No.
it's yeah.
I love it. That's awesome, man. Yeah, yeah, this is fun. It's just fun reminiscing. All right, I'll answer your question now. So after we went on 400 fun tangents, but yeah, for me it was the GameCube. So I did have Nintendo stuff. Mostly, I'd like Sega, Nintendo. And then in that era around middle school, high school, for me, the early 2000s, I had. My parents were really wonderful about video games. They would always try to get some for like birthdays, holiday, or like just randomly if I wasn't a bad kid or something. So I did have a PS2 and an Xbox, which was really awesome. I loved that. But one of my good buddies from school at the time had a GameCube and he got it at launch and he had, I think, Luigi's Mansion and Sonic Adventure 2, whatever the launch games were. And I just remember going to his house and like playing Luigi's Mansion together on his TV in his bedroom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a GameCube. Like I had a Nintendo 64. Again, like I'm not trying to pretend I didn't have stuff. I was probably way too spoiled for sure, but definitely was spoiled. But like watching him play the GameCube, playing Luigi's Mansion and Sonic Adventure together, I was like, oh, I got to get a GameCube. So I think my parents, because I was an annoying, petulant child, they probably are like, all right, let's get it. And it's probably why I'm not an adult today. But anyway, that's it for therapy. So yeah, so for me it was the GameCube. I eventually probably got one and they got it many years later, but just watching those couple Nintendo games, I was like, this is awesome. Like I want to get that. So that was kind of the one that jumps out to me at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is such a I wonder if we're going to get to a point where that is just like not a thing at all anymore, where there's like no concept of exclusivity. I think Nintendo will always do it, but you even see like Helldivers 2 going to Xbox. It's like we are living
Yeah.
in weird times, man, where PlayStation's putting their games on Xbox now. It's like wait, and then I don't know if you saw this. Spider-Man Insomniac tweeted out something of Spider-Man 2 where he's throwing up the peace sign. And it's like
Uh-uh.
people in the comments being like Spider-Man 2 saying goodbye to PlayStation, Spider-Man 2 coming to Xbox. And it's like
Oh, whoa.
I don't think that's going to happen, but once again I didn't think Helldivers was going to happen. So
Yeah.
we're living in weird times. And maybe that's for the better exclusivity kind of but I don't know.
I
Like
don't know, man. It made it fun though, because like not that you want to like covet or be jealous of what you're like, that's not good inherently, but like there was still that level of as a kid or a teenager or whatever, right? Getting excited about hopefully one day I can try it versus, well, everything's an Xbox. I can just try it tomorrow on my phone or whatever.
PlayStation
So
or your phone, yeah.
I think to that point, there maybe it's rose tinted glasses that we have, but there is that level of Nintendo really is the only holdout for that for now, but who knows? So
Yeah, and it's also the thing to like PlayStation is, I think, 30 or 40% of Sony's overall business. And
mm,
so it's like, do you really want to devalue that console? You want to lose 30, potentially 40% of your overall revenue? Like, if
yeah.
everything's everywhere, then people next generation are just going to go to whatever is the best overall system. And if you've got one system with Game Pass on and one system without, it's like Xbox becomes really appealing at that point. But
Yep.
yeah, hit back to your question. I know you had something else on the dock, and I want to take up 100 hours.
No, you're good. This is fun. I'm enjoying this. So just two more. I won't make them long. Just the last two that jumped to my mind is the era of online gaming really burgeoned in the 2000s, right? Especially again with 360, PS3. Obviously, you could play online with like Dreamcast or PS2, but it was archaic and challenging. So my question for you, because I remember this fondly, is the very first time I ever played any game online, period, was I got the 360 in 2005. I picked up the little like wireless adapter. I was in my first freshman year college dorm. I didn't know how internet worked. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand plugging things in, but I
Yeah.
picked up the Perfect Dark Zero. I think it was at the Xbox 360 one.
Wow,
Not a
yeah.
great game, but like Perfect Dark Zero. I remember I was like, I wanted to know what this whole like online gaming was. It was literally like a different language. So I somehow navigated to like plug in the Ethernet. I didn't know what it was, but I plugged it into the wall in my dorm. I plugged it into the 360. Was like, this is witchcraft if this works. I
Yeah.
turned on Perfect Dark Zero. I got into a game with people, and like literally my mind was blown. People today are going to be like, yeah, But like back in the day when you've never done that, the first time you load up an online game and you're playing with other people around the world, literally in my college dorm blew my mind. So I just wonder for you, I know you, at least you nowadays, you don't like online as much. Do you remember that first online experience in the 2000s?
So for me, I don't think we had internet until I moved out of my hometown, which was around 2011. I don't think we had
Okay.
internet like at all at my house. Um, I could be wrong, but I don't remember ever connecting to any internet related. And that's why people, probably get annoyed with me on the channel, like viewers and shit, where I just struggle to understand a lot of things about technology. Like I'm not a really technical person at all, but I don't have, you got to understand the last like 10 years for me is really the first time I've ever been technically aware. My technical awakening really only happened in the last decade. Like I did not I think the first online game I ever played, like I never even thought about that stuff. I never even thought about like what would it be like to play this game online? Like everything
Hmm.
we did was just couch co-op or couch competitive. It was nothing but that. So I just came up on that one very, very particular way of playing games. And I think that there's a part of me where I just have a tough time letting go of that and like hooking up a microphone and like talking to my friends and like I can't see them, I can't talk shit. I don't really feel, I mean, I feel comfortable talking shit to my friends, but like there's levels to even that though, where it's like I can't I don't know. Like if we're talking shit and you misconstrue it because you don't see the like I'm smirking or like I just don't like anything about it. If I'm being completely honest, I don't like anything
Sure.
about it. I don't really like anything about communicating with people that I can't see. I would really uh, yeah. I much prefer just to be able to if we had a Zoom call, like if we have one TV that's a Zoom call, and then like maybe something like that could be fun. But I don't I don't want to communicate with people where I can't see them. Like I don't know I can't really read their reaction to things. And also, if I bust your ass, I want to be able to look at your face. If I score a touchdown off of some crazy, spin and juke and get a touchdown that I never should have got, I want to see you get angry. I want to actually see your reaction. I don't want to just hear it. I want to see your face actually get red. And same with me. Like I want you to see me getting flustered. And I don't know. There's just I love the couch competitive spirit. And
Yeah.
yeah, but to your point about first online game that I ever played, this is a topic that really could go on for 7 hours.
I know, I'm sure.
It probably would have been like NBA 2K. Honestly, like this is so crazy to say this, Jeffrey. Probably like NBA 2K 15 or 16.
Wow.
Like I
That's
don't think
wild,
I
man. That's
know.
wild. That's wild.
I yeah, I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
That is wild though. And again, it's not inherently a bad thing. It's just if anything, it's good because all the things you're talking about are what a lot of us, myself included, miss about gaming because I don't do what you do or want to do anymore and haven't for years. So to your point, that's not a bad thing. If anything, that's probably good because then you got to enjoy more of that in person, which it's like a rarity nowadays when a game's like, we have couch co-op and we're like, oh my goodness, you do? That's amazing. Thank you.
But it's
Right.
like I don't
So,
enjoy it anymore either though.
oh,
I
okay.
get together with my buddies maybe to actually play games, to sit down and just have a day where we play games 2, 3 times a year.
Oh, wow.
It's not often at all. Like that's the thing that It Takes Two and A Way Out. I would play that with a buddy, right? And we
Yeah.
would make 3 hours of progress, but I wouldn't see him again for another 3 months to like I would see him again, but we wouldn't be in a spot where we're like, okay, let's sit down and play the game. We would like, okay, let's go out to here. But it's not, you're not thinking about going back and let's play the game after, like, it's not really that's not the MO. And so it would be another 3, 4 months until we sit down to chill and play a game. And by that point, what are we going to just restart it? Because who the hell remembers anything that
Yeah.
happened, you know?
Well, if you want this for yourself, I do hope it for you. I do hope if you do already, but that you do find a partner one day or can get married or whatever and have someone that wants to play games. if you want that, I hope that for you too, because I will say one of the biggest blessings is like being married to someone that also loves video games. Like she's not as gung ho as I am, but we play so many co-op games on the couch together, and some of the best memories I have gaming of the last 10 years. So I do hope that for you, because it does. I'm not saying it replaces the friend things. I don't really have friends, unfortunately, like in person. So, but it is a really cool experience to be able to do that in a different way. So I hope that for you if you want it.
I'm gonna create like a gaming version of Tinder where it's just gamers on there trying to match with one another. Does that exist?
I mean,
Probably.
probably, but you
Everything
can, if not, you
exists.
need to create it. I don't know. What would it be called though? I can't think. Do you have any funny name? Gamer? No, that's stupid. What?
Tincture?
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 Tinger?
Tincture?
That just sounds like a weird disease. I
Might
got
be.
Tinger. I went to the doctor. I got Tinger. Help me. Anyway, well, that's your next. That's your next. Once you get enough Patreon supporters, that you're going to create your new gamer dating something, right?
Because but to be fair, pretty much everybody I've ever been in a serious relationship with, they have all, like, I've never run into the issue. I don't think I play games enough to run into those issues that a lot of couples do. Like, where it's like, why are you not spending time with me? You're
Right.
always playing. I think that's mostly for, once again, online games, like where it's, one more match, one more, let's, and then you're doing it for 6 hours. I play, 3, 4 hours at a time and I'm kind of out. Like I'm out of juice at that point. I really can't play much more than that at all. So I've never really had any, and but see, that's the thing. Most of the women I've ever been in a real like relationship with, they don't mind that I play games, but they don't play games.
Gotcha. Which is great though. That's a good thing though. Yeah. So
Totally. Yeah.
okay.
Um, Jeffrey, I don't even remember what the hell we were talking about.
That's okay. I have all right. I have my last sum up. So I'll let you wrap us up because it's your channel. I don't know what I'm doing, but my last sum up question for all of our talk from the 2000s is, and you may have already said it, which is fine, but if you could just pick one memory, one memory from 2000 to 2010 that just sums up the 2000s of video games for you, good, bad, otherwise, no matter how small, big, it doesn't matter. There's no parameters. Just 2000s era gaming for Brandon, whatever age. What is that for you? And if you need time to think, that's fine. I can share what mine is, but I think that's a great way to sum up all of this.
You go first.
So the one for me when I first thought of this topic and broached it to you was it was maybe 2002, 2003. Silent Hill 2 had come out, and Silent Hill 2 is probably one of my favorite, including the remake, favorite horror games. I hadn't really played horror games. My parents were very much, God bless them, of the type that were like, don't play bad games unless you're old enough, which again, that's fine. I get it now. But I had a good buddy, actually ironic. His name was Brandon. That's kind of funny. A good buddy, Brandon in Utah. He and I would like, we were in high school. I guess he was he was like 2 or 3 years older than me. He was out of high school. So he was like the cool older dude. And I was like
Yep.
in high school, like sophomore, junior, whatever. And I'd go to his place. He'd still live with his parents. And we really wanted to play Silent Hill 2. We knew how hard it was. We knew how scary it was. We both like horror. We watch horror movies. We'd go on dates with girls together and like watch horror and stuff. But Silent Hill 2, we were just so excited to play. But we're like, why don't we play it together over the course of a weekend doing a sleepover type thing? So I just remember 2002, 2003, I'd drive over to his house and we would get a bunch of snacks. We'd stay in his basement. He had a pet snake. That was creepy. He might have been a serial killer, but he had a pet snake. No offense to snake owner. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. He had a pet snake. And that was creepy. But we sat in his little bedroom, dark bedroom, and we stayed up for like 2 or 3 days straight and played the heck out of Silent Hill 2 on PlayStation 2, uncovering the puzzles and the secrets and the horror. And that was just for me like the combination of playing with a buddy, like you had said,
Yep.
playing one of the best games of that generation and learning about horror, which was new for me in terms of video games. That for me was like the pinnacle standout that I still remember fondly to this day, of why I love gaming in the 2000s. So do you have any? Yeah. What's your best memory basically?
I actually have this is crazy. My best friend's name was Brandon, and he also owned a snake as a kid. I swear to God on my life, like right hand to God,
Really?
that is a
Whoa,
100% true story.
dude.
Um,
Weird, man. You Brandon people are weird.
I did not fuck with snakes. I hate snakes.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Wow. Okay.
Dude, my like moment, I hate to make this so self-indulgent, and tie it back to like now, but I think my
Please.
moment might have been G4. You know, when that came on the TV and I was like flipping through the channels and I saw a show that was 100% dedicated to video games and like that, that channel that like that probably was more influential in this happening right now than maybe anything else ever. The Wolf Among Us got me back into gaming. Resident Evil 2 got me into gaming initially, but in terms of getting into this, like I don't think I would have ever even had the idea that this, because like whenever I was watching Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless debate sports and this, that, and the other, it's like I knew that was a possibility. Like I knew that PTI, like, yeah, you can go and do this and make a career out of that. I never knew you could really make a living. And I guess I still don't know that you can make a living.
Touche. Subscribe to Patreon. Hurry.
Right. I, but it's like I never knew that that was even a possibility, really. Like, I guess I knew about reviews because I was getting like I I don't even know when did I start getting Game Informer. I think I started getting Game Informer magazine after I started watching G4. I could be wrong a little bit on that, but I even then it didn't I didn't think of Game Informer. I don't think they had a video wing whatsoever at this point. So like that was the first time I saw people on TV getting paid to just talk about games. And I was like, "Oh my God, I would kill a village to be able to do." And like I know it's crazy, Jeffrey, but like I still feel that like in my soul where it's I wouldn't kill a village. I mean, depending if it's a village full of bad people.
Because you already have. That's why you're locked in your prison cell.
Me
Wah
and
wah wah.
me and my other Brandons with all our snakes, our snake cult, the cult of the snake. Um,
Oh gosh.
but no, it's like I still feel that, and I think that G4 is so responsible for that. Like I still feel that in my soul where it's like I will do absolutely anything to make this work. Like I'm probably gonna be talking about games at 40 years old, and I'm like, hey, subscribe to the Patreon. We're up to 45 members. Like, yeah, you know what? It's gonna be a long, long trek, but like I don't know. I think unless something that's just so lucrative presents itself, just falls in my lap, I think I'm just going to be dying to make this a reality. And it's like all because of watching, just flipping the channel that one day saying, hey, what's this? You see people on it. Jeff Keighley, shout out to Keighley.
Yeah.
I think I also will. I, I think I'm probably more defensive or more, I don't know. I'm kind of an asshole about a lot of things that I cover. I think people shit on Keeley way more than I do, and I
Hmm.
think that might be why is tuning in and seeing like because he had that talk show thing that was just pretty much
Oh
a
yeah.
podcast, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, they're talking like humans. They're not doing shticks and like it was no dancing and no like I'm not I've never been that guy. Like I've never been the personality, the life of the party type dude. I don't really think, like I was never goofy or funny. Like I don't, and no disrespect to Keeley, but I don't think he would necessarily think of himself as like the most charismatic, personable person. And I was like, oh, he's got a job doing this and he's just talking like a human. Like, I wonder if I can do that. So I think that
That's awesome.
G4 kind of sticks as like, that's probably the memory where I'm like, oh my God, that is crazy that this is happening. So, I guess that would be the one for me. I know that's not as fun as like a specific story,
No,
but
that's great. I mean, but that's great because that encapsulates the 2000s because that was, I mean, yeah, we know G4 tried to come back and it didn't work out, which does suck, but like that encapsulates that period of time for a lot of people, not just on the creation side, but the gaming side. We learned about a lot of stuff from those shows and that channel. So that's great, man. I love that because that's a great encapsulation of all of it. So
why did that not work? And I swear, last thing, but like
no, you're
how
good, man.
how in the world could so much nostalgia, goodwill, like why did they spend so much money on that? If you brought Adam Sessler back, Morgan Webb back, if you brought like the core, I don't know, not Tina Fey, Tina, I
Not t-
forget,
that would have been funny though. That'd be random.
um,
I don't know.
Tina
I don't.
something.
Those are the only two like names that I remember is Adam and Morgan. I don't remember the other names very much, except for the Attack of the Show guy. I don't remember what his name was, but
Kevin,
Kevin Pereira or something.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was G4, right? Attack of the Show. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Anyway,
Yeah. but it's like if you could have got Keeley, Sessler, Morgan Webb, you probably couldn't afford like Olivia Munn, and you couldn't get
Yeah.
you couldn't get the people who went on to like superstardom, which I think she was probably the only one. But
Hmm.
um, if you got like that core group of four people and you paid them 100 grand a piece, they each do one show a week. Like, I think that because I remember hearing that they were spending like millions and millions and millions of dollars on that thing. And I was like,
Jeez.
why? In this era of
Wow.
podcasting and like remote recording and I don't know.
To try to keep up with, yeah, I don't know. That it is weird because you think something like that would have immediately connected with not even just people like us, but even people older than us or people that have families now that want to be like, hey, let me show you, who knows, maybe just trying to appeal to too many audiences. I don't know. It does suck, but it would at the same time, it still would have never been it wouldn't have been what it was, right? Like that's the sad reality is you can't, it doesn't mean it can't be good or even great. It just, you can't recreate something. At least I don't think you can recreate something that's like, it's never going to be exactly the same, even if it's good. Right. I
True.
mean, maybe that's not true because playing Silent Hill 2 remake was just as great as playing the old one. So what do I know? But nothing.
I bet you money. And
Okay.
once again, this is me and my Keeley fanboyism going here.
You
I
shilling for Keely over here.
I do bet you money if he was the dude behind it, it would have worked. I
Yeah.
because I think he would have understood that like you can't play to this TV audience as like your predominant focus. If it gets on TV, great. But first and foremost, like he really has an understanding of this digital age of like, okay, the Game Awards, we're not putting it on Spike. It's going on YouTube. And oh
Right.
wow, 100 million people watched it. Oh wow, now we have Sprite and this and that advertising, and they're paying us tens of millions of dollars, and each game on here is getting shown. Like, I think that if you had somebody who understood the digital age a little bit better backing it, and then you also have the nostalgia on top of it, and even, dude, I think they're all based out of LA
Oh,
still to
yeah.
this day. So, like, you could theoretically, I mean, dude, uh, Keeley, they got crazy money.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
if they wanted to pop up a studio and have a show in there, you know, I don't I think that they could look at the thing he did with the Summer Game Fest.
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
Yeah, I mean
It's
they got a
crazy.
full thing where people are going in there demoing games and like that is totally a loss leader. Like they're not making any money on that.
Yeah.
That's totally for just the having something that resembles E3 coming back. E3, that's another thing that we could have, yeah,
Oh yeah, duh. Completely forgot about E3. Yeah. Well, Jeff Keighley, if you're watching this, hire Brandon.
bro,
Hire Brandon to restart or do his own thing. If you're watching, Jeff, thanks.
I, I, I
He
say
might
this a
watch it.
lot. I do not I don't think I would go to work for pretty much any outlet. Like, listen, if IGN hit me up and was like, "Here, go do a podcast once a week," like I would absolutely do anything like that for any company. But nobody's hiring for that. You know what
No,
I mean? And
no.
so it's like, but 100%. I think that if Keeley hit me up and was like, "Hey, come work for me doing X," like I think I would this is going to sound stupid, but I think I would almost just, no matter what the role was, I think I would probably go do it just because I believe in that dude's vision a little bit more than I believe in a lot of like the bigger conglomerate things. It's
Sure.
like, it's like, yeah, I think you kind of know what the hell you're doing. And I think if I'm in your path, I might end up on a decent path myself. Which once again, I think that I kind of imagine he's probably getting close to bouncing.
I mean, he's got to be. Well, I mean, that's still the hard part is too. There's probably some age limit, unfortunately, for gaming. You know what I mean? I mean, there's not for playing games, but for like being in games media. Like, it's sad to say that, but it probably is maybe true. So yeah, you're right. Maybe he's kind of feeling that. Well, Jeff Keeley, if you're watching this, which we know you are, call Brandon, hire him, email him. He's ready. He's
Bro,
ready to do. He's ready to shine your shoes. Ready to
yeah,
shine your shoes, kid. Yeah.
I would much rather be a shoe shiner than be an on-stage presenter. That is the one thing I will not. I would absolutely not take
Really?
any.
You're
Hell
on camera and
no.
you're saying stuff constantly. You're presenting. You're basically presenting to an audience, not live, I guess, but well, you have
Bro,
done it live.
I get so like I'm nervous talking on this. I get so nervous with, I think
Okay.
that's a reason that I actually kind of like doing it. It's an exercise in getting over something that is a fear. Like I'm not a public speaking, man, in my job, I have to talk with people, every single day. And Jeffrey, I can't tell you every single conversation I'm flubbing my words, and
Hmm.
because it's all new people that I'm talking to pretty much every single day. And so if I'm talking to a new person, I get so damn anxious, so anxious, and I talk too
Wow.
fast and I stumble over my words, and I'm like, I'll end up saying, they're like, uh there was something that I said the other day. They were like, have a good day, and I said, it's one of those things where you say something that just is totally not related to have a good day. It's like a response, but it's a response to something else. So like if someone says, uh, I,
Have a good
damn
day.
it.
Go eat a taco. And you just run off into the distance.
It's like the thing where,
Okay.
it wasn't this, but it's like the thing you'll see on a movie, someone's like, have a good day. And it's like, love you. Like that, like just like one of those natural, that is something you would say to your wife or somebody that you're around frequently. And you're like, I just said that I just I just got my DoorDash and told the DoorDash guy I love him.
Oh, oh, that's sweet of you. Maybe they really wanted to hear. Maybe they needed to hear that. So you know what? You're doing the Lord's work. Keep it up.
That is the one thing that like you do end up learning how to make a joke out of your screw ups because you do them so often that you're just like you just learn how to like pick up your I don't yeah, you just
pick up pick up your feces.
yeah, I was gonna say your verbal shit, but like
Oh,
you
okay, sure, yeah.
you pick that up and try to spin it into turn verbal shit into verbal salad.
And on that note, who's hungry? Sign up for Patreon channel memberships. Brandon needs to hang out with Jeff, not this Jeff, the other Jeff. But anyway, all right. Well, yeah, we would. I feel like we covered such an awesome. See, this is what I love is because we covered such an awesome gamut of things. You know, we always think it's going to be just games, but like whenever I watch these kind of things, like from other channels, I like when they go on tangents personally. Maybe that's rare that we like, maybe that's why we do it, but like I don't like when it's just sticking to the notes. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's fun. Maybe that's self indulgent, but I like when podcasts do that. So I hope other people like that we do that too.
Oh, dude, yeah, this is a blast. And this is
Uh,
something I don't ever do because, like, I once again, I don't really, I don't know. I'm not like a real personable person, and so like whenever I'm preparing a show, I'm so like pages and pages and pages of notes, and
wow.
it, it kind of depends, right? But like the news show, like the Ramble Report,
Yeah.
pages and pages and
Really?
pages of, oh my God, like
Wow. Nice.
pages of notes. I try not to present it like it's, like I'm reading anything because I'm not, but like I, I, when I'm talking like sales data and stuff, I don't know any of that. I
Yeah,
gotta
that's
have,
fair.
yeah.
Good for you,
Uh,
man. Good for you. That's good. That's doing your due diligence, man. Good for you.
but at the same time, it's like, dude, if you ever, because I kind of felt like with this sort of topic, I was in the passenger seat. And like that's I don't really ever get to feel like that. So that's fucking wonderful. Like if you ever have a topic idea
You're
that,
welcome. You are welcome.
but dude, no, for real, if you ever have something that hits your brain, because this was your idea, the talk about the early 2000s, if you ever have something like that you're like, this would kind of lead into and you want to, like you had those questions prepared. I didn't have any of that shit. And I apologize. I didn't really do my homework to make this show
Stop
as
it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. This is going to turn to a therapy session where I have to coddle you into saying you did great. No, it's good, man. That was the point. I think that was the point is I think coming into some of these topics spontaneously with a little bit of thought is good. But like to your point, those shows you do. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't come into a show talking about sales data spontaneously. That's just inauthentic and also just not good for the viewer that wants to learn that stuff. So you do both you and Loon, again, I told you this, you guys do such a phenomenal job. It's just keeping up with things and the way you communicate about like topics that even myself who's plugged into this wouldn't be able to talk about. So it's really phenomenal. So I'm just grateful that we can have a fun conversation kind of off the cuff. It's just great to do that. So hopefully we can keep doing more if people are interested.
yeah,
So
totally. And once again, any idea that you have, like, I don't even really give a shit if it's something that like I have necessarily a lot of knowledge in or whatever. Just you have something general idea, throw it my direction, and we'll record it, man.
All right. Well, anything you want to wrap us up, or thank you people for watching us talk about our old man stuff. We appreciate it.
Patreon.com. Let's go. Let's head on over to patreon.com/game and ramble and let's turn this into let's compete with G4. Let's take back the throne for the number one gaming media outlet in the world.
Hey, here, I'll do it since I'm not actually a part of the channel like you and Loon. I can do like I'll do a little marketing thing for you. How about that? So I'll look to the camera and everything. So hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for watching us. We appreciate it. This is weird and creepy. I don't know why I'm saying it in a weird voice like this. This is going to make you want to sign up more. I'm not playing basketball in the park. That'd be even weirder. Anyway, let's so Brandon and Loon, they do a great job. It's hard work. They put in a lot of work for this. I put in no work for this, so I don't deserve any of it. So they deserve it. So go to Patreon, check out the channel memberships. As someone that used to create stuff, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. And we need you, Brandon with the snake. Sign up. Love you.
The motherfucker turned into a doctor. I should hit him up.
Really?
Swear to God, he's a doctor now.
Like a witch doctor with like snakes and stuff, or like an actual doctor?
Actual doctor.
Really?
Like a legitimate, like making.
Wow.
I actually hung out with him a couple weeks ago. I'm sweating like crazy. You see that? That's gross.
That's sweat? I thought you were just like halfway in a swimming pool, you psycho.
So I turned down.
Good Lord.
It's like 100 degrees. And so here's the thing. I'm having to I recorded with Loon like a 4.5 hour thing recently. And it was so nice and cool. I have my air conditioning just bumping, just maxed out. I listened to the audio. I was like, no, man. So I got it like turned down super, super low, and I'm feeling it.
All right.
I got sweat pouring out of
We
my
can stop
eardrums.
so you're not in a swimming pool. Another reason for you guys to help support the channel. Brandon needs a quiet, nice, very fancy air conditioning so we can be bougie. So there you go. How about that? Does that work?
Yeah. Let's
See if any of this helped you out. Or if it made people be like, I'm never supporting this lunatic. Sorry.
let's fund the air
All right.
conditioning, guys. Let's keep the lights on in the Game and Ramble studio, and let's let's
Okay.
continue to let's have a good
Wow.
one.
Love you. Bye. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye.